Hi, Taylor T. Carlson, and back with another video for you. Today we're going to be taking a look at a newly released 4K collection from one of my favorite filmmakers, Alfred Hitchcock. This is the Alfred Hitchcock Classics Collection. These are the first releases of any Hitchcock films in 4K, and in this package you get Rear Window, Vertigo, Psycho, and The Birds. There's a lot of Hitchcock stuff, and hopefully we'll be getting more of it on 4K in the future, but this collection from Universal is definitely a promising start. Here's the back of the package where you get a look at the movies that are in here and some descriptors and so forth. And this is a slip cover, so I'll take that off. Pretty much the same cover underneath, under there, and here's the spine of the inside. And then back here you got some artwork from the 4 movies along with Hitch in the center. And let's go ahead and crack this open. Here's the inner front cover. Great shot, great quote from Hitch right there. And now we get into the movies. Here's Rear Window. The one thing I am going to say about this release, I absolutely hate this packaging. It's stylized and looks pretty nice, but your discs are in these tiny little sleeves on the side, and it is a pain to get them out of there, and it's especially hard to get them out there without putting fingerprints on your discs. I mean, when they put out that box set of the 4K Star Wars films, I deliberately bought the individual releases instead for this very reason. But anyway, we'll move on and I'll show you what else we got in here. Here's Vertigo. Each one of these sections has a quote from the film, some images, list of bonus features. Next up we've got Psycho. And Psycho is actually presented in 2 versions here. The main version that we've had on DVDs and Blu-rays for years, and it's got the original uncut 1960 version that's been censored a few times over the years, finally restored and released to a modern audience for the very first time. And last in the collection we have The Birds, quite possibly, arguably, Hitch's last great film. And inside the back cover we've got another quote from Hitch, some great pictures, and I will say this, it's kind of limited in terms of what films you get in here. The 2 big omissions from this set that really rubbed me the wrong way were North by Northwest and Rope. I have a feeling we'll get those on 4K eventually, and it's possible this may have to do with legalities. I had an old Hitchcock Blu-ray set from a few years ago that was kind of set up the same way that did include those films, so I hope we'll see them. I know that North by Northwest is actually an old MGM title that's owned by Warner Brothers now, so I don't know if that's an issue as far as legalities go. Not totally sure about Rope either. There are many great Hitchcock films, and I hope we'll get more in 4K in the future, but for what it is, this is a good start. First movie in the set is Rear Window, starring the always entertaining James Stewart. In this movie, he plays a photographer who finds himself hospitalized and then sentenced to his apartment with a broken leg, unable to leave. As an audience, we're confined to this apartment complex, but despite that, there's a lot going on, and there might even be a conspiracy when our hero suspects there might be foul play going on with one of the residents in the apartment. It's a great movie that manages to convey a true feeling of desperation and suspense, despite keeping us in one location the entire movie. There's a pretty strong supporting cast. In a minor part, there's actually Frank Cady, probably best known for playing Sam Drucker on the classic rural sitcom Green Acres. And one of the real surprises is there's a songwriter character in one of the other apartments, and he's portrayed by Ross Bagdasarian. Ross Bagdasarian would later be known, a few years later, for being the creator and the original voice of Alvin and the Chipmunks. So there's quite a bit of talent assembled in this film, and the conclusion doesn't disappoint. Also be on the lookout for a pre-Perry Mason Raymond Burr. The second movie in the set is Vertigo. This time around, James Stewart returns. This time he's a retired cop who suffers from, you guessed it, vertigo. And then he meets up with one of the former associates that he used to know who wants his wife spied on because supposedly she believes she's the reincarnation of a woman who died 100 years ago. Suddenly, he finds himself infatuated with this woman, but as with any Hitchcock movie, there's a lot of unexpected twists. There are many interpretations of Vertigo, and I don't think there's really any right or wrong one. It's interesting because Alfred Hitchcock manages to let us see this material in so many different ways and what it means. I'm not going to spoil any of the plot twists here for people who haven't seen the movie, but I'll just put it simply and say that this one does not disappoint. Psycho, probably the most famous of all Alfred Hitchcock movies, unlike the others in this set, was actually filmed in black and white and on a much smaller budget. This time around, Janet Leigh portrays a woman who wants to catch a break so she can pay off her boyfriend's debts and the two of them can live a happy life. Her boyfriend played by John Gavin, who you may remember as Julius Caesar from the film Spartacus. The two of them want to be together, and she makes the decision to steal some money from a real estate deal in the office that she works in and drives away, contemplating her actions, eventually coming across the Bates Motel and meeting its very odd proprietor, Norman Bates. When she goes missing and doesn't return, her sister and a detective, as well as her boyfriend, set out to search for her. It's kind of hard to talk about this one without mentioning any spoilers, not to mention the fact I think the spoilers become one of the biggest cliches in popular culture, but you cannot deny what an entertaining film Psycho is. And despite the film being in black and white, combined with all these other color films, I think the production values here are just as high, and if anything, I think the level of suspense is even higher. Great performances all around from the likes of Janet Leigh, Anthony Perkins, Martin Balsam, Vera Miles, John Gavin. The list goes on, but I don't think Hitch ever exceeded this classic. Closing out the collection is The Birds. This time around, a woman decides to take a road trip to deliver some birds to a man that came into a pet store not too long ago, and it's not long before birds start attacking under mysterious circumstances with no apparent explanation. This movie was actually based on a story by Daphne du Maurier. She's the one who wrote the story that an earlier Alfred Hitchcock film, Rebecca, was based on. And this is a great, suspenseful film, and there's a lot of ambiguity here and no real clear answers as to why these attacks are happening. Although in this case, I think the ambiguity actually helps the film more than it harms it, creating more of a sense of mystery. The film is surprisingly violent for a product of its day, and while some of the effects are dated, I don't think the level of suspense has died down any at all. We've got 4 great films here, and I'm happy to say that the picture quality on these 4K discs does not disappoint. There's obviously going to be a few moments, namely effect shots, which The Birds has plenty of, where the picture quality may soften and struggle a little, but for what they are, these are great restorations of the film. I think they were sourced from the same restorations that the most recent Blu-ray versions were, and these with the HDR treatments and everything, it definitely goes the extra mile to make this look like a pretty solid collection. Tons of bonus features in here as well, including a lot of stuff that was included in the earlier sets. I'm not totally sure if anything in here, aside from the uncut version of Psycho, was ever on any of the earlier Blu-rays, but it is a great supplementary package, so I don't think fans will be disappointed. Are you an Alfred Hitchcock fan? What's your favorite movie he ever put out? Is it in this set, or are you holding out hope that it's going to come out on 4K later? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Also remember to subscribe to my channel for more content, and like my video if you found it helpful. I'm Taylor T. Carlson, and I'll see you in my next movie review.